We've decided to do a single strand rappel with a rappel line and a pull line. Let's talk about the pros and cons of various categories of blocks, systems that keep the rope from pulling through the anchor when weighted. Hello again, everyone. I'm Jason. Let's say we are climbing with single-strand assisted braking devices, like gree-grees, a damaged rope, or we have a rappel that is too long for a doubled over rope. For whatever reason, we want to rappel down the route on a single strand. So, we decide that we want to set up some kind of block at the anchor point, keeping the rope from pulling through when we weight the rappel line. And when we pull on the other line, that will be how we pull down and retrieve our rope. Let's go into 3 categories of blocks, and in essence, we are going from less safe as a block, but safer when pulling the rope, due to the risk of our rope getting stuck, to vice versa, more safe as a block, but less safe when pulling the rope. I should also mention that canyoneers have myriad systems for these single-strand rappels, and if you want to go deeper, I can recommend a great How Not To video with a link in the description. But today, I will stick with the standard categories of options we typically find in rock climbing scenarios. The first set are knot blocks that really just use the knot. In essence, we need a knot that is bigger than the aperture of the rappel point so that the knot cannot be pulled through. Right away then, we need a small opening, so we are looking for narrow chain links or quick links. We want to avoid anything with larger openings. Sure, we could tie a big knot, but then we lose the main benefit of using this knot block. A small system, in this case just a knot, means there isn't a high chance of that knot getting stuck when we pull the rope down to retrieve it. Another risk with using just a knot as the block is that if the knot is precisely the wrong diameter vis-a-vis the rappel point, the knot could get sucked into that opening and get stuck there. While there are many knots we can tie to create a knot block, if we are joining ropes, the flat overhand bend is often used due to it being strong enough, but incredibly easy to tie. We could use an alpine butterfly, and we have a link to a short in the description that gets into how to tie that knot, or use an overhand on a bite for the block if we're using a single rope. But again, the bigger the knot, and certainly a knot with a loop, adds in risk when pulling down the rope. Our next category of blocks are carabiner blocks. We are using a carabiner attached at the spine to the pull side of our rope. Just like before, we want to make sure the carabiner we are using for the block is large enough that it could not fit through the rappel point, even if it gets twisted into strange vectors once forces are applied to the system. We typically can tolerate slightly larger openings with this setup. We also may prefer that the blocking carabiner is a double or triple action locker so that it is less likely to come undone while unattended. And we want to be considerate of gated rappel points, as the hard carabiner may increase the likelihood of interfering with that gate. Finally, we want the knot we use on the carabiner to be very secure and less likely to slide around the carabiner. That's why we don't usually do this with a bite knot. Rather, we typically see a clove hitch or even a triple clove hitch. We take a standard clove hitch starter, one vertical strand behind the horizontal strand, one vertical strand in front of the horizontal strand, and then take the loop made from the in-front vertical strand and cross it behind. Now we want to make one more loop with the vertical strand in front and cross that loop behind. It will take a bit to dress this knot, and of course we test the system before relying upon it. While we are loading the carabiner in a strange way, we are only doing so with the body weight level forces of a rappel, so it isn't a concern. That's actually the same as with the next system. Back to our trade-offs for this system though, we have a large hazard when pulling the rope down for retrieval, but we now have a hard material that is less likely to get sucked into the rappel point opening. We can add even more security at the rappel point by making a Reepschnür Hitch, our final category type of block. Here, we make a bite knot on the pull strand, which is itself a knot block. Add a locker to the knot, which is an imprecise carabiner block, and then secure the carabiner around the rappel strand with the gate facing away from the wall to create a loop that constricts around the rappel point. This is very secure at the rappel, but when we pull the rope, all we need is the pull strand being on one side of an object while the rappel strand is on the other side, and we can get the entire system stuck very easily. Of course, even outside that scenario, we have a carabiner and a knot, a lot of material. that is capable of getting stuck in a crack or the like. We can lessen that last risk by making a smaller closed-loop system at the rappel point using just the rope. If we have a single rope, we can run the tail of the rappel end through a bite knot in the pull strand before tossing the ropes. If we are using 2 ropes, we can take the tails coming from the joining knot and then fix them closed around the rappel line using a double fisherman's. A stout knot is needed for closing the loop around the rappel line because if it fails, so does our system if we have a wide opening at the rappel point. Finally, if we are using a carabiner but using 2 ropes, we will typically join the ropes making sure we have 30 centimeters of tail and then add the bite knot onto the rappel line. This way, should the joining knot fail, our rappel system doesn't fail, leaving us with options to ascend the rappel line and reset the system. If we made the bite knot on the pull strand, and if the joining knot should fail, well, bottom line though is that on slab or vertical routes, there is little reason to not opt for more safety at the rappel point, but as terrain gets broken and blocky, we might need to keep the block system small to reduce the risk of our rope getting stuck. Have you ever gotten a rope stuck upon retrieval? Let us know your story in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and share if you want to support us. For more information, you can go to our website at www.shortguysbetaworks.com. Once we build these rappel systems, we still have to toss the rope, so you can watch a video we did on different rope tosses for different wind conditions, or maybe check out our entire rock climbing safety series. We'll see you next week and keep on getting more out of that big outside.